Hey there, and welcome to Sound Check by Support Act. My name is Luke O'Connor. I'm the Industry Relations Manager for Support Act here in Melbourne, Australia. And today I'm being joined by Ash King, who is a Psych researcher, content manager for the Indigo Project, and also a Provisional Psych. Thanks for joining us, Ash.
Thanks, Luke. Nice to be here.
Yes, thanks for joining us. So the idea of our lunchtime sound check by Support Act is that we know that a lot of people right now are really struggling with the impact of COVID-19 on the music industry. And we want to start having some good, detailed, but also lighthearted conversations about people's mental and physical well-being over the next few weeks. So join us at lunchtimes, where we're going to have a range of guests on from people who are subject matter experts in the mental health field, but also some fun stuff like yoga in your spare room, meditation, and a whole lot of artists, crew workers, and music industry professionals who are going to join us for a chat about how they're doing whilst you eat a sandwich at your lunch break. So today, Ash, thanks so much for joining us. What do you want to cover today? We're going to talk about where are we at?
Well, I think that it's already challenging to be existing and working in the music industry in terms of how that plays on one's mental health. But a lot of the recent changes that have been made and the restrictions have obviously hit all of those working in the music industry even harder. So just wanted to kind of...
health industry, no doubt.
Pardon?
In the mental health industry, no doubt.
Oh, yes. Look, that is what has been on the forefront of our minds too, because obviously our job is sitting face to face with people and helping people that way. And that's really not something that's even allowed at the moment. So, I'm married to a musician. I used to be a full-time musician. So I've definitely been there, but this whole new world is really confronting us with a whole new range of challenges.
Absolutely, it is. And I think at this point, it's important for me to say that Support Act is the national music industry charity. The whole point of Support Act is that we've existed for over 2 decades to help support musicians in times of crisis. And obviously for us at the moment, that is a completely shifting thing from what the amount of people that we used to work with to where we're at now has completely changed within the last week. And for people at home who are watching this right now, or wherever you might be, hopefully you're at home, maybe you're in the backyard gardening. But if you're listening to this and you feel like you're doing it tough, we really encourage people to contact our wellbeing helpline, which if you go to our website, supportact.org.au, you can find all the information you might need about our helpline. But people, trained mental health practitioners are there to chat with you about what you might be going through at the moment, particularly for people who work in the performing arts industry. So that's open to all people, music industry workers, crew workers, artists, and people who work in the performing arts because of our partnership with the Arts Wellbeing Collective. So we encourage you to go and get on that right now. So anyway, back to you, Ash.
So I think one of the first steps in, not sort of dealing with everything that's going on is to not be afraid to actually acknowledge and accept how you're feeling and how you're reacting to things. Now, I know that this is kind of really confronting and can seem like the worst idea at the time. I definitely know that when I had to first face up to my own mental health challenges, that this seemed like the last thing that I needed to do. You're like, are you kidding? I've lost all my work. I don't know how I'm going to pay my bills. I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to, claw my way back in the industry as I was, there's so many questions and so many unknowns. And you think that you need to be thinking solutions. But what's actually really, really important is to just pause for a moment and let yourself feel how it is you're feeling. And that might be scared, it might be frustrated, it might be angry. So much of our day is spent denying our emotional experience. We try to think our way out of it. We try to distract ourselves from it. But if we really want to get a handle on our mental health, and that is really the first step in order to, start finding solutions and start making the right decisions that are going to help you sort of into a place of more calm, more security, you need to kind of start right there at the very beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess a lot of that is about, acknowledging that your physical environment has changed significantly. So taking on board kind of the government's direction around how people should be, social distancing and remaining in self-isolation. I mean, what are some things that people can keep present in their mind around their home environment, their workspace? Like I'm in a room surrounded by mattresses. So I've put in my one prop for this, and also I have my picture of Rule, who I always look to for inspiration in tough times. He's one of my idols. But what are your suggestions for people who are, generally social and out there gigging, working? What can people do to cope through these times?
Well, I definitely recall when I had to step away from the music industry through, choices that weren't necessarily my own, and found myself in a very similar position. I had to move out of my home. I didn't have any more work, and I found myself so isolated and cut off from the community that used to help me thrive and make me feel so connected. What I think, though, is that you can reframe the situation to offer you a new opportunity to maybe develop a deeper and more connected relationship with yourself. And I know that probably hearing this and not feeling like, wow, that's so exciting. I can't wait to be my own best.
I finally get to interact with myself again. It is important.
It is important. And you know what? It's challenging to do when it's all go, go, go when you're working in the music industry. Often you're out late at night, you're, drinking, you're chatting with mates, and then maybe you spend, your days rehearsing or keeping yourself busy with admin, and you often don't take that time and take that stillness to pause and check in with yourself and ask, well, how am I doing really? What am I feeling, and how is this feeling for me? There's also this absolutely pervasive sense of grief, I think, that's affecting a lot of people. And when we can't do what it is we believe we're here to do, like make music, create art, connect with people, then it's almost like we need to grieve the loss of that, even if it's only in the short term. So that's also, things like grief and anxiety, things like sadness and anger are often emotional reactions that we try to shy away from. And it's quite easy to do when you're, in a really loud bar playing, 40-minute sets and having some beers in between and talking shit with the guys in the band. You kind of don't really get that opportunity to go, actually, I feel really scared, or I feel really sad about how I'm feeling. So I think that this stillness and this space that we have now is actually a beautiful invitation to just touch base with you.
Yeah, beautiful. And some of those kind of headline topics that you just spoke about, then there's some of the things that we hope to cover through this series in the coming weeks. How to be mindful in this moment, how to cope, how to build resilience, what coping strategies people can put in place, but also having discussions about grief and things that a lot of people out there are dealing with, around anxiety and depression as well. So, but if anything in this discussion triggers you, make sure you head to our wellbeing helpline, as I mentioned before. All the information about that can be found at supportact.org.au on our website, and we encourage you to go and check that out right now. Just kind of going on from what you were saying, Ash, about the sense of self. I know, talking to a lot of people who work in the production industry, who work with Support Act, and that's quite a large part of our cohort with Support Act, is working with people who work in the crewing industry. That it's their sense of identity that is so linked to what they do as a roadie or a crew worker. What's your advice for how people kind of reconcile their identity and their kind of work identity in this time where everyone's kind of sitting on their hands?
Of course, yeah. So this is absolutely a huge issue now, and I think that it also highlights how much we do associate who we are with our jobs, with the jobs that we perform. And there are some industries that sort of connect themselves a little bit tighter in terms of their occupation and their identity, or their vocation and their identity. When you can't do your job, you're sort of left floundering and asking yourself, well, who am I and what am I if I'm not doing what it is I've always done, or what it is I believe I'm meant to be doing? So I think this just brings me back to that sense of stillness and that sense of being important and being worthy and being you without needing to do anything. A lot of us grow up learning that our worth is based on what we can contribute. So how good we are at something, what jobs we've been given, who we've worked with, who we've worked for. And so we're constantly linking our own sense of identity and self-worth with what other people are providing for us. Now, this seems easy and it seems to make sense really from the get-go, but when you think about it, you realize that so much of your own sense of stability is hung up on external factors. And what these past few weeks have shown us is that we have like a hell of a less control over these external factors than we originally thought. Things can sweep through and our life can change in a matter of days, in a matter of minutes. So it is really important. And you brought up the idea of resilience. And this is what resilience is. It's this idea that whatever happens, I'm going to be okay. And of course, I'm bringing this up like something like it's like, a tap that you can just switch on and like, oh, great, I'll just shower some resilience all over me right now. Of course, that's not how it works. And as a psychologist, we recommend, a range of different sort of self-care practices, obviously one-on-one therapy, talking to someone and getting some strategies and some tools that you can use that are tailored to you specifically, that can help you build this resilience on a day-by-day basis, not just when things are shit. And it's kind of like when we first go and look for these options, we need to be doing it every day, every week. It's like going to the gym. You need to work up these muscles and you need to work them up when your body's feeling good, not when you've got the flu and you're like, oh shit, I wish I was stronger and more fit right now. You know what I mean? So, but look, now is as good a time as ever to start working on this sort of stuff.
Yeah, that's really great practical advice, because I think you're right in the sense that at the moment, a lot of people are facing, I need to go into action mode now because I'm trying to, navigate the Centrelink process. I'm trying to work out, what contracted jobs may or may not be able to go ahead depending on how far in the future they are. There's just so many unknowns. So that sense of resilience that people can, it feels like such an abstract thing to just say. It's like, oh, it's about building resilience. But hopefully over time, people can start to learn ways that they can, like you say, center themselves and build that strength to get into fight mode, to start working through some of these issues. Now, just from a like psychology perspective, can you suggest any really practical measures for people to kind of have that moment with themselves and think about what they have to do, like to build that resilience in their spare bedroom with their picture of rule, for example? What would someone in that situation do?
Well, there are a few sort of starter tips that can be helpful. One of them is, and this might be a bit of a cringe, but sort of mindfulness meditation. I know that people often hear the word meditation and their mind immediately takes them to some sort of levitating Gandhi-like figure in the middle of an ashram in India. But what meditation really does is allow us to have more control over the thoughts, feelings and sensations that are coming into our body and how we're reacting to them. So it really is an exercise in being present in the moment. And when you can create space within a meditation practice, you're able then to have more control over how you react to things in the outside world. And so if you find yourself like constantly flying off the handle, super stressed when someone says something or someone does something to you, and you go, oh, I wish that I didn't always react like that, and I wish that I could just calm down and be more chill. That's always my one. It's like, I wish that I could be more chill. So And, you know, meditation doesn't
I wish I could appear more enthusiastic when I'm talking to people.
So I think that that even just setting aside, say, 5 minutes a day, and there's plenty of free resources. YouTube has so many free guided meditations.
We might put some in the comments as well after this as well for people to.
Yeah, there's some great apps, Insight Timer. You know, sometimes we also recommend, you know, maybe even finding like 5 minutes of, say, instrumental ambient music that can kind of ground you. And so even that is kind of helpful, giving yourself the opportunity just to listen to the music or listen to the voice that's guiding you, following instructions. It's going to be uncomfortable at first. It's going to feel weird. You're going to have a million thoughts in your head. You're going to think you're doing it wrong. But it actually really, really is one of those things that is like training at the gym and training your least favorite exercise where you feel like you're never ever improving for ages until you are improving and you realize, oh wow, this actually does have incredible benefits.
Well, that's brilliant advice. I am mindful of the irony of making this next comment, the fact that we are on social media, but at the moment, like a lot of people who will come to Support Act for help will be finding a lot of their information via social media. Have you got any like just short bit of information for people about how that might impact on their well-being at this time and what is and isn't important?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've been finding that social media time has really been affecting people's well-being, and it's no surprise due to the 24/7 news cycle that's constantly refreshing. You know, it's pretty much just a drag and a release, and you've got a whole new slew of articles there to horrify you. So you do need to be aware of how much power you're holding in your hands when you've got your phone there. Look, I'm guilty of it, and you know, I find myself turning to my phone because I think that there's going to be answers or there's going to be comfort there. And you know what? In the meantime, it kind of does feel like there's this temporary comfort when you're reading an article. You know, you're keeping busy, your mind's busy, you're reading, you're consuming. It isn't until after, and it isn't and until those moments of stillness when you realize that your mind's just ticking over and over and over, that you can't switch off. And it's no surprise if it's been working like this day in, day out, so used to consuming, you need to give it a break. So I would say, you know, definitely try to have a time when you're going to cut off your phone use before bed. So this will help optimize your sleep, help you fall asleep faster and improve your sleep quality. So maybe even if it's just half an hour before bed, I mean, I know that the experts usually say an hour, but we're not going to expect too much. Whatever you can give is great. Set your phone on Do Not Disturb while you're reading a book, while you're practicing the instrument, while you're cooking something. At least give yourself a period of time where you can fully allow yourself to immerse in an activity and not feel like you have to be dragged away or dragged out of that mind space to respond to something on your phone. I'm sure that you can give yourself half an hour here and there during your day, and you know what? It's going to make a huge difference.
Oh, that's brilliant advice. Okay, well, I think that probably brings us to the end of the content. Before we go, I just want to bring people's attention to the soundofsilence.com.au. It's an all of music industry initiative that Support Act is involved in. The idea is about how do we raise funds for artists, crew workers, and music industry professionals in this time where our whole industry has been so hit by this crisis. So go to the soundofsilence.com.au where you can find more information. You can buy merch direct from the artists, or you can buy the Sound of Silence t-shirt. You can also go through and make a donation to Support Act. Support Act has had unprecedented demand for our services. We're a small team. We're trying our best to respond to this crisis as well as we can. And so we know that people are hurting. We're trying to put together our best efforts to respond to people as quickly as we can. In the meantime, our wellbeing helpline, which is staffed by professional mental health practitioners and staffed by Access EAP, who are a national mental health provider. That service is available 24/7 and you can call that on 1-800-959-500. And just before we go, Ash, if you can just explain a little bit about the Indigo Project, that'd be brilliant. And then we'll wrap it up and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, I know that I told you all to put your phones down, but if you're looking for some grounding exercises and some things to pull you back in line with sort of your calmest and most centered self, you should follow us on Instagram. We're the_Indigo_Project. And also, if you're keen to chat with therapists one-on-one, unfortunately, the government is still not given the thumbs up for the Medicare rebates that previously were being used for anyone on a mental health care plan to be used via remote therapy, which is sort of Zoom therapy just like this or on the phone. We do currently have a petition that we would really encourage everyone to jump on and sign. You can find that on our blog, on our website, or on our Facebook page as well. But if you wanted to get in touch and chat with one of our practitioners, we're actually currently waiving that rebate fee so that no one is having to pay extra for their mental health care at the moment with us.
Great. Well, thanks everyone for joining us on a sound check by Support Act today. We've got a range of great guests coming up. We're going to be going live next week. Today's episode was pre-recorded, but as of next week, we'll be going live from midday till 12:30 with some great guests covering everything about mental and physical well-being and social well-being at this time whilst you eat your sandwich. Hope you have a good day, and we'll see you soon. Thanks.